Bettor Sports Betting wants to know what picks you're playing tonight. Tell us in the live chat on YouTube, Twitter, and the Bettor Sports Network app. This is Bettor Sports Betting with Fantasy Alarm's Dan Servodidio.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back in here to the Bettor Sports Betting Show on Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm. Appreciate everyone tuning in here on a Friday afternoon. I got Howard Bender with me on this Friday. What's up, Howard?
What's going on, Servo? How you doing? I'm like shifting
Doing
gears
great.
back and forth. It's baseball, it's football, it's football, it's baseball. And I feel like we're going to splash in maybe a little soccer in there too.
Yeah, the football. We will be talking about the football here. We got Steve Pimental, who's been on the show a few times now for this Women's World Cup, and he'll be back today. We got the Team USA, the U.S. Women's National Team, back in action on early Sunday morning, 5 a.m. Eastern. That match is kicking off against Sweden. So we will have Steve on to break down that game, any best bets for it, and the rest of the knockout round games. Now that all the group stages are done, Steve's all glued into it. So we'll be having him on in about 20 minutes here. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, we got plenty of baseball picks to give you guys in the meantime, props, any bets for tonight's games. I wanted to start out, though, by the way, and if anyone has any questions, comments, as always, just hit us up in the chat. We'll answer your questions. You got a pick that you want to throw at us to see if it could cash tonight. We'll give our opinions on it, but just wanted to ask you, I know you're a Jets fan, right? You're a New York Jets fan. Mm-hmm. Over under 1.5 minutes you watched the Hall of Fame game last night.
You said it at 1.5 minutes?
Yes.
I mean, cash your tickets if you took the over, but I mean that was
okay.
That was a low line right there. I mean that was
I know how enthusiastic you were about watching, the Home Run Derby and the All-Star game. So I don't know where you were at with this Hall of Fame game.
I tuned in long enough to hear Aaron Rodgers claim that he is a fabulous mentor for younger quarterbacks. Like when I heard that interview going on, I mean, I was fish hooked right there. Let me listen to more of what Aaron Rodgers has to say. Oh, Garrett Wilson needs to catch up to Alan Lazard. And you're a great mentor. And you learned so much because Brett Favre was in front. Yeah, I don't know, man. That was a whole lot of lip service. And I think in the midst of all of that interview, I caught like some of the game.
All right. Well, I was wondering where your interest level was. By the way, last night or yesterday on the show, if you watched, me and James Grande gave out some bets for the people for the game because why not get some action on it if people are going to be watching. It's the first football game back in our lives now. So if you watched, we hit on some of these bets. Over 33.5 hit that I gave out. I also gave out the Jets first half money line that cashed. The Browns did come back to win the game, but that was something we talked about being, Jets maybe having the advantage in the first half. And then the second half with Dorian Thompson-Robinson running it for the Browns, he was making plays with his legs. And we mentioned, I think James mentioned it on the show, and we kind of both agreed to look at his over rush yards prop, which was around like 27.5 yards, and that hit. So, cash register sounds coming to
ring it, baby, ring
season. It. Love it, man. We're it's all downhill from here, of course. But why not just dabble some on this preseason? I think we'll probably dive back in next week. We got a bunch of other games. Obviously don't go crazy. It's just preseason, but for this Hall of Fame game, when you have a lean or two, which I gave out yesterday, it could become profitable. So thankfully we hit on those. But your Jets did not get the victory, but who cares? It's the preseason.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me at all. I think somebody tried to bait me into somebody from Cleveland tried to bait me into some action on that game. I was like, no, what are you kidding me? Yeah, I'm gonna bet on the Hall of Fame game here. No, as a straight up. I'm not saying like making a bet. I mean like Cleveland versus the Jets.
Oh no,
right? No. Was I gonna bet that game straight up? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets were the favorites by like, what is it, 1.5? I think the spread was, but like, yeah, that's just a toss up because the second half, you have no idea what's going to happen in the second half when you got these third, fourth stringers in the game. And it turns out the Browns behind Dorian Thompson-Robinson were the ones to pull out. So good for them. All right, let's dive into tonight's baseball slate because we got a bunch of games to get to, almost a pretty much full slate of games, but enough to get our picks in. So what's your top best bet for tonight?
Where to wet the whistle here for tonight's action? I'm gonna go with it's kind of interesting. I'm gonna side with some pitching, and not invest in offenses here. How about Twins Diamondbacks under 8.5 runs, -115 on BetMGM? Merrill Kelly, back from injury, worked his way back. He's gotten some action under his belt already. I think that he is more than capable of keeping the Twins, just a little bit at bay. And Bailey Ober, again, he doesn't. Neither pitcher needs to be lights out. They just need to keep it, relatively under wraps. Could I see this being a 4-2, 4-3 game? Yeah, absolutely.
I like that under because I looked at a bunch of Merrill Kelly props. Looking at that Twins offense that strikes out a ton and has been very, up and down, it seems. So, yeah, a good call. Bailey Ober's been pitching well lately. So,
thank you.
Yeah, I could look at that under too. Oh, I'll go on the flip side and go with an over here. In the Mets-Orioles game, I like the over 9, -118 on FanDuel. We got David Peterson re-entering the Mets rotation here with Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander now gone. So it's just a spot where I'm targeting the Orioles against the lefty again because they've been lighting up lefties. They did against the Blue Jays multiple times. Good numbers versus lefties all season. And since the All-Star break, top 10 offense versus lefties still, 206 ISO. And David Peterson, dude, he had a 6.46 ERA when he was in the Mets rotation. Then he got demoted to the bullpen lately, but they need him back in there because they need an arm there. With Verlander and Scherzer gone, and I don't think it's going to go good for him. So I like the Orioles here. The Orioles are favorites in this game overall, but I also think like there's a chance Dean Kramer on the other side is going to give up a few runs himself. Some bad, underlying metrics compared to his ERA, which is still at 4.66, but his expected ERA and FIP are a lot higher, and he's got poor numbers at home too, 5.51 ERA at home. And the Mets have been quietly, top 10 offense versus righties over the past week, just playing a little bit better right now. So I think, this over 9 is a good spot to target.
I like it, man. I like it. You know me, man. I'm fine with the Orioles now in their action.
Yeah, they're off. It's kind of like right now I'm watching the Cubs Braves and the Cubs are getting shut out. But I was gonna say it's kind of like this Cubs and Orioles, it's been pretty profitable to ride their offenses lately. But maybe not today for the Cubs, but I'm hoping the Orioles keep it going tonight. All right. What other picks you got? Both got a bunch of, player props and bets that we're going to give out. So what else you got?
Yeah. You know what? I mean, I'm going to go with, I'll start here with another game, Rockies Cardinals. It's Adam Wainwright and who's on the bump for the Rockies? Well, the name is escaping.
It's Chris Flexen.
Flexen, yeah. And listen, I don't hate Chris Flexen. I mean, he was like a semi decent innings eater when he was with Seattle, but against this Cardinals lineup, which they're not going in the tank. You still have Arenado and you still got Paul Goldschmidt. And it's still St. Louis hitting in, against that action. And Wainwright again, he's not a great pitcher. I think the number is a little bit high, right? But I'm going to take the plus odds on over 10 and just kind of hope that, we get an appearance here from St. Louis that is, something that was much needed throughout the year. I don't think they're going to totally give up on the season here. So if you're going to give me plus odds on it, I'm just going to take the over 10 and hope for like a 6-5 or a 7-5 game in this for these two teams.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Flexen's having a rough time this year.
Shocking.
He's got like an 8.08 ERA because I'm targeting this matchup on the Cardinals side for my home run call a little bit later. So I'm going with a Cardinal because I think that this over 10. I was looking at a number of different hitters there for the Cardinals because I think this Cardinals offense is going to have a good time. The Rockies. I mean, this over 10. It is. I like getting the plus odds on it, but it is high for a game that's not in Coors, right?
It definitely
is,
the
Rockies
man.
Still involved. All right, my next pick. I'm going with the Padres money line here. This is just the Padres. You mentioned them as a team that you like betting on in the second half to make a push into the wild card, and they're starting to do it. They're playing a lot better. Their offense is now starting to click. And I think this game tonight against the Dodgers at home, I think it's a huge spot for them to make sure they get this win with Yu Darvish on the mound. Because they've had, they're pitching outside of Darvish and Blake Snell is a little bit suspect right now with Musgrove getting hurt right now. So I think with Darvish on the mound tonight, this is a game they need to get because, it's Darvish versus Bobby Miller for the Dodgers. And Miller, he started out well for them, but 6.63 ERA over his last 7 starts since mid-June. He's starting to come back down to earth. Teams are figuring him out. And the Padres versus righties are hammering them. 391 WOBA, 248 ISO over the past week versus right-handed pitchers. And I think Darvish is going to do his thing. I know the Dodgers offense is good. They're really good against righties, have been all year. But actually over the past week, they're kind of below league average against right-handed pitching in a few categories. And Darvish I knew he had success against the Dodgers, multiple starts in the past, but looking at his career against the Dodgers, 2.36 ERA in this matchup. So I like him to keep it going at home here. So give me the Padres money line, -125 on DraftKings. Not too bad.
I like that, man. I do like that one there. I mean, listen, I very much want the Padres to really make that push. It's just too great of a lineup. It's just too great of a lineup to not see in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it would really kind of bum me out for that. I'm going to go to, you know what? I'm going to your Phillies here. I know it's not the safest of teams to go to here because, I mean, it's the Phillies and, we'll have to kind of wait and see. But, I mean, it's Aaron Nola versus Jordan Lyles. And, I mean, come on. It's Jordan Lyles. I mean, if you're going to put a team in, if a team's going to get put into the hole somehow, Jordan Lyles is just that guy to do it. And if the Phillies want to make that, solidify themselves in the playoffs this year, these are the games that they have to win. You can't screw around with a game like this. You're just facing too easy of an opponent. And so, I don't normally like to give away the run line here at home, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to say the Phillies. I'm going to get that value. I'm going to say the Phillies win this one by 2 runs or more at -118 on DraftKings.
I obviously I like this pick because I'm a Phillies guy, but honestly, I looked at this game and with the same same things in mind that the Phillies need this game. They just came off a good series with the Marlins, but this is the game that they need to win handily and not worry about. But I didn't want that to cloud my kind of judgment with betting. But I'm glad that you're on that side because I wonder if you feel like that with like betting on the Yankees, where something might be in your brain about how they should play or how this game should go, but then you're obviously a little bit biased behind the scenes, so it's tough to kind of fully separate that. But I'm glad that you're on the Phillies here on the run line because that makes me feel good about it. I might now back it. So. But on that note, I got to go right to a Phillies hitter here and kind of support Trey Turner. He's been terrible this year. It's some bad numbers. He's at 235 this year. It has not been good, and it's been rough lately. But there's something happening here. So, and this is something I do know because I am a Phillies fan, because glued to all these Phillies beat writers on Twitter and all this. There's been a push on social media over the past couple days because Trey Turner, he blew an error that cost him the win the other day. He went 0 for 5 in a game, and he owned it in the media. He said, "Yeah, it's my fault. I'm the reason that we lost." And there's a push on social media between Phillies fans. The Phillies are coming back home tonight, as you mentioned, and they're going to give Trey Turner a standing ovation when he comes to the plate. Instead of booing him like we might assume Philly fans would do, they're going to give him a standing O tonight when he comes to the plate. I think that's going to. I think he's going to respond well.
That's what they're saying in public right now, Servo. I don't know if they're actually going to do that. I mean,
it's going to happen.
They're just giving everybody a reason so they can all stand up, so that everybody, so nobody's like, well, who stood up and threw those batteries? No, I don't know.
Oh no, it was everyone. Yeah.
Start pinging.
Well, no, this happened last year.
Pinging off of his helmet over at the. Oh my God.
This happened last year, though, with Alec Boehm, who had some words for like the fans, and they cheered him, the next game when he came out, and he responded well to that. I'm hoping Trey Turner responds well to this, but I'm going with his over hits, runs, RBIs here because also you mentioned this matchup against Jordan Lyles. I mean, he's terrible, and he's allowing on the road. He's got a 7.52 ERA. 291 batting average against on the road. So I like Turner here, overs, hits, runs, RBIs. This could happen in one at bat. I'm fine if he goes 1 for 4 or 1 for 5, but if that at bat includes an RBI and a run scored as well as a hit, then I'm good with it.
All right, listen, okay, fanboy, no problem.
I didn't give out the Phillies run line, but you did.
Hey man, there you go. So we'll see. All right, I got one more here for this, and it's a prop actually, and I'm going to go with Tyler Stevenson of the Reds. He's been up and down. I think he's got he's got 2 multi-hit games in his last 4 or 5. He got the rest, on is it the other day he got the rest? Yeah, either way. I'm looking at Stevenson tonight going up against Patrick Corbin, the lefty. Stevenson actually puts the ball in play. 366 BABIP, against left-handed pitching. And that's, when you're doing this bet, like hits, runs plus RBI, like I'm doing, it's minus 125, right? So if he's got that 366 BABIP against lefties, you want him to just keep putting the ball in play. A hit will drop. And if that's the case, then you're halfway there. And so it's just a matter of whether or not the surrounding lineup can help you out. And I mean, listen, I love that Reds surrounding lineup. So I think that Stevenson here over 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBI, just because he puts the ball in play on the regular, I think that he's going to be worth using tonight.
All right. Yeah. I'll go with a hitter as well here. Ryan Mountcastle over 1.5 total bases. I mentioned I really like the Orioles offense here against the lefty David Peterson, and Mountcastle has been crushing left-handed pitching all season long. 351 batting average, 340 ISO in this split, and Peterson allowing a 295 batting average to right-handed hitters this year. And Mountcastle's coming in really hot. This Blue Jays series, he just crushed Toronto pitching over the past since the All-Star break. 449 batting average for him. 1205 OPS. In terms of total bases, he's been over 1.5 total bases in 5 straight coming into tonight, and 10 of his 17 games since the All-Star break. So I like this over total bases. Looked at the hits, runs, RBIs, but it's up at 2.5 over on draft.
Dude, everybody got jacked up to 2.5 today, man. I was like, are you kidding me? Like even Matt McClain, who's like Mr. Singles, right? Like, and every time I bet him, on his props, he always goes over. But you know what? Like, yeah, everybody got jacked up to 2.5 today.
Yeah, I mean it's a bet that we've been cashing on it, right? We've been cashing on this left and right, so. I can get why they want to keep moving them up to 2.5, but I'll just take the total bases for Mountcastle. And then before we talk some World Cup with Steve Pimental, my last pick here, James Paxton under 6.5 strikeouts. I broke this one more in depth over at the Underdog Picks article over on Fantasy Alarm, which you can check out right now for free if you want some more analysis on this. But the Blue Jays offense just does not strike out a lot against left-handed pitching over the whole season, just a 19% K rate versus lefties. And then over the past 2 weeks here, a 17% K rate, a high walk rate as well. And Paxton's just been, he's very inconsistent with his strikeout numbers. been up and down, under, and he comes in under in 3 of the last 4 coming into tonight. So I just think the Blue Jays are going to get to him, make him work in a tight, wild card, meaningful matchup here. So yeah, give me the under on his strikeouts, minus 146 on FanDuel. It's pricey, but I still think it goes under here. So I'll pay it.
All right. I dig it, baby. I dig
right.
it. Anytime you're going under on Paxton, I'm good.
Right?
I am not a fan.
By the way, go check out, if you haven't already, up on Fantasy Alarm. Obviously, the Fantasy Football Draft Guide and the Fantasy Football Cheat Sheet, which you can get for free if you have an All-Pro subscription. You can get a free 7-day trial to Fantasy Alarm's All-Pro subscription and get the Draft Guide and Cheat Sheet for free. You got everything you need for every kind of draft that you might be doing this year. Rankings, draft strategies, updates on all the latest training camp, preseason news, everything. And that you get the cheat sheet and the draft guide for free with that 7-day free trial for the All-Pro subscription. You got we got fantasy football bowl predictions as well. It's a good article up on the site now. So take advantage of all this now. And with that All-Pro subscription, you'd be getting all these DFS playbooks that we got for WNBA and for the World Cup that Steve Pimental has been killing it lately with the World Cup and WNBA. And we welcome him in now, Steve. Appreciate you joining us here on a Friday afternoon. You've been busy covering both WNBA and World Cup, but the World Cup, we got a day break, but some knockout round matches coming up. What's up, Steve? And appreciate you joining us here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm was working on the WNBA playbook for Fantasy Alarm, so that should be out shortly for tonight's slate. And like you said, trying to take advantage of the brief break because then it's full speed ahead into the knockout round for the World Cup.
Yeah, you have right now up on the site, you have World Cup playbook out, right?
Yes, for tonight's or Saturday morning, depending on where you're at. Yeah, so those will be the first 2 games of the knockout round. And that's already up on the site as well.
Well, Steve, thanks so much for joining, man. Always a pleasure to get a chance to talk to you. I'm hoping that Hootie is behind you and sleeping one off, that you got him out there. USA versus Sweden. Here we go. Sunday, 5 a.m. Eastern time. Let's talk about the preview here. Kind of what you're thinking. Obviously, the U.S. has not been delivering the performances that we expected from them. Are they slow playing things here for to help increase the odds for us? What do you think?
Well, I think it's possible, and that's something that hasn't really been discussed since they drew against Portugal, and that was obviously a disappointing game. There's really no 2 ways about it. If they wanted to avoid Sweden, which everyone knew was going to be a tough matchup, they needed to beat Portugal. Well, it turned out they would have needed to beat Portugal by 6 goals, but they needed to beat Portugal and run up the score, and they failed to do that. At some point during that game, I think the Netherlands was up 4-0 after 30 minutes. So at that point, a draw was as good as a win. So if the optimistic view would be that the U.S. took the foot off the gas once it was clear that a win wasn't going to change their fate at all, and that they are saving something for the knockout round. And the other bit in their favor is the last time that the U.S. qualified second out of their group and didn't win their group was 2011, and they still made it to the final. So any thought that because they were disappointing in the group stage that means that they're doomed, obviously that's not the case. They've still made the final or the semifinal every year that we've had a World Cup. That being said, I'm concerned. I mean, Sweden arguably looked the best out of any team. They're one of 3 teams that didn't allow a single goal in the group stage. They won all their games. They took care of business. They've always been a strong squad. Arguably, they're the best country that's never won the World Cup, but they usually get to the knockout stage and at least win a couple games. So this is going to be a really tough matchup. And the issue for me is that the United States just doesn't. They're trying to run the same playbook that they always have, relying on outstanding players and just being able to kind of beat other squads just by their sheer talent and not tactically. And I just don't think that's going to work in this environment anymore, and especially against this Sweden team. So there's definitely a chance for them to turn it around, but I've got a couple bets that involve Sweden, if they can get past this game, I think whichever team wins this game is going to have a good chance to go far. And so a couple of my bets are going to reflect that.
So, for this game specifically, you got any picks for this one? We got USA plus 115 on the money line. Draw is at plus 205. Sweden to win is at plus 206. Any picks or leans you have for this game specifically, or as you mentioned, for either US or Sweden going further in the other rounds?
Well, the tricky thing, we've talked in the past about, there are three outcomes. You could bet either team to win or the draw. Also, you can you can bet which team's going to advance. So that includes now that we're out of the group stage, if the game ends in a draw, then they're going to go to extra time and then penalties. So that's another angle that you could consider. I actually like under 2.5, or even if you wanted to go under 1.5 to bump the money a little bit. Nearly 40% of the group stage games finished with one goal or fewer. So you're getting pretty good money for that. And as much as the United States offense hasn't looked good, their expected goals allowed was the second lowest in the entire group. So even the teams that didn't allow a goal, their expected goals allowed were higher than the U.S. And their back four has really been their strength so far in this game. So I combine that, I could see a draw, or one team getting one goal. So under 1.5, I think, is my favorite bet out of this game.
Well, that sounds exciting.
Well, that's kind of the trend. It's funny because the goals have been down this year from what it was in 2019, but the number of upsets have been up. So you would think, but like you're saying, fewer goals means less excitement, but at least so far it's been the opposite. So hopefully that continues.
On that note, Steve, please don't tell me did you watch the entire U.S.-Portugal game? Because I did not, and I woke up seeing that the final score was 0-0, and I was like, oh, I'm glad I did not wake up in the middle of the night to watch that thing.
No, I couldn't even finish the game on the replay. I did not wake up for it. I saw the result, and I watched, just doing my due diligence as a analyst. Wanted to see how they looked, and it was. I mean, I've seen plenty of 0-0 draws that were exciting and worth watching, and this was not one.
This was not one of them. All right. Well, Steve, the country and the team that interests me the most. So let's talk about our good friends in Norway and what we can expect. The round of 16. Those games are getting ready to start up. I think it's 4 a.m. They're going up against Japan, which is obviously going to be a very tough matchup for them. So my question to you is how does this one, is Norway at plus 375? Is this a decent bet, or are we looking more on the lines of, you think the chalk's going to hit here and it's going to be Japan?
Well, It's tough because I'm really tempted. There are only two favorites out of the 8 games in this round that I'm really confident in. And Japan isn't one of them, even though they looked nearly as good as Sweden did in the group stage. But in the group stage, basically 20% of the games, or close to 20% of the games, were won outright by the underdog, and another 20% the underdog managed to draw. So basically, you're still looking at about 60% of the games that were won by the favorites. So I say all that just as a way. I'm tempted to pick 6 underdogs, and I'm trying to rein myself in a little bit. And Norway falls under that under that flag. And part of the problem is that I still don't 100% know what to make of this team. I mean, it was nice to see when their back was against the wall that they finally took care of business and won big like they were supposed to, and secured their spot like I thought Germany was going to do, and they didn't. And there are, a couple of, like I thought the U.S. was going to do against Portugal, and they couldn't. So that's a good sign. Norway's had personnel in and out of the lineup. I mean, they've got a fairly deep attacking squad, but Ada Hegerberg hasn't played since the first match. If I knew for a fact that she was healthy, that might change how I feel against Japan. And then, Norway was supposed to be the team that scored a bunch of goals, but also allowed a bunch of goals, and that hasn't been the case either. So it's just a tough team to wrap my arms around, and considering how good Japan looked, and the fact that whoever wins this game is going to face the winner of USA and Sweden. I'm just kind of tending for future bets, and even for this game. I'm not going to mess around. We got my pre-tournament bets in on Norway, so obviously I'm rooting for them. But I'm not sure this is a great spot to try to make our money back.
How about the other games, other matches we have? Tonight, tomorrow morning, early tomorrow morning, and just kind of through the weekend. We have the Sunday game between U.S. and Sweden, but then Monday morning and Tuesday morning, we also have the other round of 16 matches. You can see all these odds up on the screen now. Awesome job by our producer getting these up for the people. But any picks you have on any of these matchups? You mentioned you might like a few underdogs, right?
Yes. So the 2 underdogs, one of them is tonight. It's going to be Switzerland against Spain. Spain was one of the teams I was skeptical about before the tournament started, and they completely laid an egg against Japan. They got blown out 4-0 despite having like 75% of the possession. And Switzerland is one of those teams, we've talked about this as well. The way to advance in these tournaments, by and large, is to not allow goals and to do just enough offensively to advance. That's how Canada won the Olympics last year. They only scored 3 goals. 2 of them were on penalties, but they didn't allow basically any goals in the entire tournament. So they advanced. In the Men's World Cup, which was only like 7 months ago, you had Croatia and also Morocco that basically played really good defense and found a way to score goals when they needed to. And I think that's exactly what Switzerland can do. They got their win early in the group stage and then ground out 2 0-0 draws, and it wasn't exciting and it wasn't inspiring, but I think that's enough to advance. And if they can get past Spain, then they've got a really reasonable shot of making the semifinals. So one of the bets that I want to highlight is Switzerland to make the semis plus 1,600. And obviously you can bet them to advance. I even kind of like an outright win because I think they might be able to get something done on the counterattack against Spain. But yeah, if we're looking out a little bit farther, I like them to make the semis. And then the other for this round, the other underdog that I like is Jamaica to win outright at plus 290. Colombia was awesome in the first two games. They're a huge reason why Germany is going home early, which we don't need to dwell on because I was loud wrong about them. But then Colombia, they taketh and they giveth and they taketh away, because they also laid an egg against Morocco, which is how we nailed Morocco advancing to the knockouts at plus 3,500.
Yeah, you did. Nice.
Which I need to get that brag in there before you kick me out. But I think Colombia is one of those teams that is great as an underdog, but doesn't know how to be the favorite. They love to attack, but they're not efficient at it. And they just left loads of space for Morocco to get in front of the net and get shots on goal. And so Jamaica is one of those teams that hasn't allowed a goal yet. Their goalkeeper has 17 saves through 3 games. And so I just think that the style matchup for Colombia, honestly, I'd almost like them better if they were playing a bigger side that was going to have possession and that they'd be able to counterattack, but that's probably not going to be the case in this game.
Well, Steve, I definitely won't harbor any animosity about the Germany pick, because I'm looking at plus 6,600 for Norway to win now, and I had them at plus 4,000. Am I hedging here with am I taking the odds here for USA at plus 450 to win the World Cup? I'm looking at England at plus 300, Spain at plus 400, and the USA third best odds at plus 450. Did they wake up, Steve? I think they wake up.
I think they wake up, and actually the bet that I like along those lines, I mean, I'm not going to talk you out of USA, but you can get USA or Sweden to win it all. So basically the winner of this game to go all the way is plus 350. And I think that's probably the way I'm going to attack it. I mean, the drawback is a lot of the other, bets where the double chance bets to win, you can pick 2 teams from opposite sides of the bracket, possibly get 2, if they meet up in the final, then you've basically won. But I like this angle because these are 2 really good teams. And again, whoever advances, I think they're going to have a good shot. While we're talking about Sweden, the other angle I like for Sweden, I mean, you can bet them to win it all, but I like Amanda Illested as top goal scorer at plus 3,500, because if Sweden does make it to the final or win it all, she's their talisman. She's almost certainly going to lead the team in goals. And so if you think they're going to go far, it's a good angle. And you're basically doubling, I think, Sweden to win it all, I want to say is plus 1,800. So you're getting 3,500 for her to be top goal scorer. So it's a nice way to kind of find some added value.
I wanted to ask you about goal scorers, so I'm glad you went in that direction before we let you go, because if you're looking at any U.S. player to score in their matchup against Sweden, who's kind of your best bet? I know we've talked about the U.S. in the past, and the Rodman, Lynn Williams, Sophia Smith, obviously. We saw Lindsey Horan had that awesome header goal. But any picks kind of to bet on for tomorrow? I know you mentioned you like the lower scoring game, so it's maybe tough to pick out, multiple goal scorers here. But who's your top pick to score maybe?
If there's going to be one, I would say probably Sophia Smith, especially there's been talk of moving her to the top, and because she's been playing on the wing, and for her club team, she plays the striker role. So I think if she moves to that role, especially, there could be some value there. And then a longer shot, Julie Ertz. We saw Lindsey Horan scored on a corner kick. I think if the U.S. is going to have success, it might come on a set piece, and Ertz is one of the tallest players and is always good on getting on the end of free kicks. So if you wanted a longer odds for a goal, I keep saying that she's going to get one, and she might be running out of time in this tournament, but it's definitely worth a shot.
I'm looking at her odds, plus 900 on DraftKings for an anytime goal scorer. And if you want to bet on her to be the first or last goal scorer, plus 2,000, which if you think maybe there's only one goal scorer in the game, then that might be the right way to do it. Like that call. Awesome stuff, Steve. I'm looking at your playbook right now. You got up for tomorrow morning's games for those, 1 a.m. Eastern is the earliest, so not too late if you want to stay up and watch some of these. But
Howard's just getting started at 1 a.m.
Just getting started, baby. Come on. I'm up. Come watch him with me. I'll be in the Fantasy Alarm Discord.
There you go. So we'll keep an eye on your WNBA DFS playbook coming up too for all the slates really, but for tonight, and then I'm sure they'll have a showdown playbook up for this U.S. versus Sweden game. So we'll be keeping an eye out for that as well. But Steve, awesome stuff as always. You mentioned some of the hits and misses. That's the thing with betting, but you hit on Morocco. That's a huge win, man. You gotta pimp that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great thing about a tournament like this is, unless I do something really stupid, I'm set for the rest of the tournament. So
there you go. All right, Steve, you can follow him on Twitter at Steve's Fantasy AD, and follows all the stuff on Fantasy Alarm, WNBA, and the Women's World Cup. Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
Bye,
You
Steve.
too. We got a question in our chat here. What do y'all think about the Paul versus Diaz picks? Honestly, I am not glued in on this fight here. I think he's thinking of a Jake Paul and Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz. Honestly, I know there was like a brawl or something at their weigh-in, so I know that happened, but I have no idea what the odds are, and honestly, I won't be tuning in for this. I have never really wanted to see Jake Paul fights and all that stuff, so I'm sorry. But if you want some MMA DFS stuff, we do have a playbook up for that for Saturday's card. And if you want to hit up Mike Iannone on Twitter, maybe he's got a pick for this fight. But I don't know, you got to lean on Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz or no?
I mean, Jake Paul's a minus 270 favorite in this fight. Okay. So I mean, that's a little juicy for me. So I'm not, I don't want to, and I haven't looked at like the individual rounds or anything like that. But I mean, would I sprinkle half a unit on Nate Diaz just in the hopes that Jake Paul gets his ass whooped? Yeah, I mean, I probably would. But like the problem is it's a boxing match. So Paul definitely has the advantage over Diaz. As a fighter, as a an MMA guy who wasn't specially a boxer. So I think Paul probably has that edge there, but I would just for the desire to see Jake Paul get his ass whooped by Nate Diaz, and then like not only does Diaz put him down, but then he turns him into a pretzel like that, I'd be cool with that.
Yeah, we do have Mike Iannone, who's glued into the MMA world, and Nate Diaz used to be a UFC guy, so maybe he's got an opinion on the Nate Diaz side of things.
I'm gonna message Grande. Grande's a huge boxing guy.
Is he? Okay.
So I'm gonna message him while we're here on the show, and and see what he says.
See if we have we'll see if we have a pick for you. So appreciate you asking about that. I have not been doing any research on Diaz versus Jake Paul. So,
no, but I always root against the Paul brothers every single time. I always root against them, and so James is typing. I love it. I love when you throw some of the G chat and it's like James is typing. Ooh. He says, you ask me this and not Spence Crawford, shaking my head. Just answer the stupid question, James. I don't give a shit about Spence Crawford.
Well, Spence Crawford is a much bigger fight, so to his credit.
All right, I just wrote live asking. He says, I'd say Jake Paul because it's boxing and Nate is an MMA artist. So apparently James knows as much as I do.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is similar to when obviously not the same thing, but when a boxer faces a MMA fighter, you just gotta favor the boxer. Like when Mayweather was facing McGregor, it was like McGregor's not gonna win. It's boxing. Mayweather's gonna dance around him. I mean, I am looking at Jake Paul's record because I have not been obviously glued into him, but he did lose his last fight in February of this year to Tommy Fury. split decision there. So, keep that in mind, I guess. Maybe either it's good or bad for him going to this fight. Motivation or, he can be beat. So
he can, but I mean, I would see what the bets are for how long this fight's going to go, because I feel like, Jake Paul could be a little aggressive here, but if he can't land clean shots on Nate Diaz early, then I could see this fight going, full blown on the distance there, and instead of it being like a knockout.
Yeah, I could see it too. I am looking back through because I knew he fought like Tyron Woodley, and he knocked him out in the 6th round. He did also face him again earlier than that, and it was a split decision, full 8 rounds. He faced Anderson Silva, also an MMA guy, and went 8 rounds, full 8 rounds. He knocked out Ben Askren, who was a MMA guy, and
I remember Askren.
He knocked him out in the 1st round. But the recent guys he has faced, Woodley and Silva, the last 2 have gone the distance. So, yeah.
I would look at
All right. Well, that's your boxing hour here. I did not expect to talk some boxing on this Friday. We'll cover it all here. World Cup, boxing, and we'll go back to baseball here because we got some plus money Diamond Dog picks to give you for Friday night. So let's get to that.
I'm rounding up the Diamond Dogs.
Who the are the Diamond Dogs?
It's just a group of people who care, Roy. Not unlike folks at a hip-hop concert whose hands are not in the air.
Oh, who's your Diamond Dog? Who you got tonight, Howard?
Who do you got tonight, Servo? Why do I have to be the first?
First.
Well, I'll go the first if you really want me to. Give me the White Sox, baby. Give me the White Sox. Listen, I know that what's his face on the mound for Logan Allen got beaten up by the White Sox in his last start, and he also got beaten up by the Royals the start before that. All right, Mike Clevinger on the bump for Chicago. I'm actually a big Clevinger fan. I think Clevinger after the Tommy John. I mean, it's been a rocky road for him trying to make it back and get into everything, but velocity has been fine. Command and control are always the last to come back. And I think when you're looking at this matchup here against this Cleveland Guardians lineup, which is, it's not great outside of Jose Ramirez. There's just really not a lot to love. So I'm back in Clevinger here. Chicago money line plus 143 on Caesars. So best odds there over on Caesars.
Yeah, I'm looking. Yeah, plus 136 on DraftKings if you want to get on that one. But yeah, plus 143 is nice.
Why would you want plus 136 on DraftKings when you can get 143 on Caesars?
That's a good call. All right, my dog is Blue Jays money line. I mentioned I'm fading Paxton's strikeouts tonight, and just kind of fading Paxton overall against the Blue Jays offense that's been really hammering left-handed pitching lately. 370 WOBA over the past couple weeks against lefties. I mentioned low strikeout rate too, so they're going to make Paxton work here. And listen, I think it's risky here because we got Alek Manoah on the mound for the Blue Jays, who we all know what happened earlier this year. Got demoted, and it was really bad at one point. But he's back, and he's been decent, in the last couple starts.
Dude, he hit a dude in the face.
Well, yeah. Well, besides that, he's not allowing 6 runs every outing like he had been. So I think he's been okay. But looking at his career numbers versus the Red Sox, 171 ERA, 4-1 record over 7 career outings against Boston, and good numbers at Fenway too. He's in Fenway here. I know it's been in the past, and he's been a little bit worse this year. But the Red Sox too over the past couple weeks. Really below average numbers against righties, even though they have been good overall this year. But over the past week, they're just slumping a little bit. So I just think there's value on the Blue Jays money line here. A divisional matchup, both teams looking for the wild card push here. And I think the Blue Jays at plus 136 on DraftKings is not bad.
All right. Well, I mean, listen, from one diamond dog to another, I wish you nothing but the best on that pick. I hope it hits, man. Listen, every time I do the show with you, which is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we like dive right in. And it's the first game, like if I'm not watching the games because I'm working or the wife's got me on some sort of home improvement project, which is ridiculous because I'm the least handy person in the world, but I always check in on our Diamond Dog picks first, so I wish you nothing but the best in yours. I know mine's going to hit.
Well, listen, Wednesday hit on the Royals, so
boom.
Well, let's make it 2 in a row. All right, let's also get to our home run predictions for tonight. Our daily dingers.
And that baby is gone.
Now that's a dinger.
All right, that's a dinger.
I'm going 3 in a row, baby. Here you go. Spencer Steer, plus 350 on DraftKings, going up against Patrick the Gas Can Corbin. Spencer Steer, strong isolated power numbers against left-handed pitching. Listen, he's homered in his last 2 games, and it's a home game here against Patrick Corbin. So Spencer Steer, just so everybody can be like, damn, that dude just hit 3 home runs in a row in consecutive games. I'm going to cash in on that one there, plus 350. Yes.
There you go. All right, I'm fading Chris Flexen with this pick. You mentioned you like the over in this one, and I'm going with a Cardinals bat, Lars Nootbaar, plus 550. He's been on fire right now. He's hitting 423 over his past 7 games with 4 homers in these 7 games here. Hits righties well. 10 of his 11 home runs this year have come against righties. And listen, Flexen, he allowed 7 home runs over his last 12 and a third innings pitched, spanning his time with the reliever as a Mariner and now in the Rockies rotation. I don't think it's going to go well for him here. So I like Nootbaar from the left side against Flexen here to go deep.
No. I mean, what do you want me to say? Lars Nootbaar. I mean, I love a good Nootbaar. I love a good Zagnut too. Give me a Snickers right now because I probably can't get a Nootbaar at this point. He better hit a home run, Servo. Come on, you're making these calls.
Our producer Adam, if he doesn't go deep, I just need a clip of me going through all that and then Howard just going, no.
You got it.
That is gold right there.
Nah.
All right. So those are our picks for Friday night. Appreciate everyone tuning in here. If you want to keep going with some MLB talk today on Bettor Sports Network, we have the Quick Pitch MLB DFS live show coming up at 5 p.m. Eastern in a few minutes here with John and Pemba and James Grande. And then 6 p.m. Eastern, the Fantasy Baseball Podcast with Matt Sells and Colby Conway breaking down all of the trade deadline fallout. And then 7 p.m. Eastern, Campus to Canton, talking conference realignment. Did you see the big news today? Oregon and Washington are going to the Big Ten Conference.
Yeah, we talked about this on the Better Morning Show a couple of days ago. Dude, conference realignment and conferences, this is one big money grab. But here's the problem, right? Because isn't Maryland a Big Ten team now?
Yeah, they have been for a few years, yeah. So
if you've got Oregon and Washington in the Big Ten and you've got Maryland in the Big Ten, like that's a ridiculous travel schedule for college athletes.
Listen, we had this. This came up because USC and UCLA are joining the Big Ten next year. This is their last year in the Pac-12, and now Oregon and Washington are following suit. But I mean, it's one thing from obviously LA to the East Coast, but it's even further from the Northwest in Washington. To go to Maryland or, even anywhere else, all the other Big Ten schools, it's a far travel. So,
dude, it's ridiculous. It's so dumb. And Adam even says it here in the chat. Can we please stop calling it the Big Ten when there's 347 teams in it? 100%, dude. 100%. I mean, it's ridiculous. And now what we're going to end up seeing is like, the Pac-10 or Pac-12 or whatever it is called or whatever, they're going to have to start, like grabbing in teams. So like, I expect like, the Pac-12 is going to try and make a pitch to the WAC conference and we can get a pack of WAC at 12.
I mean, yeah, the fact that, and this year we have a lot of new teams switching conferences, like the Big 12 has Cincinnati, BYU, South Florida is in Central Florida rather is in the Big 12. Now it's just like, it's all over the place. As a college football guy, like I'll be, obviously covering college football DFS and betting and stuff for Fantasy Alarm and BSN. And it's like, I'm trying to stay on top of this because it's like, oh wait, we got BYU in the Big 12 now. We got, this team, next year we're going to have Texas in the SEC. It's like, whatever, just make one big league and call it a day.
Yeah, exactly. One big league, set up different, regional divisions, but it's all one league and all the money goes into one pot.
Yeah. So anyway, the Campus to Canton guys will be breaking all that down for sure tonight. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, appreciate everyone tuning in here. We got to get out of here. Appreciate everyone just watching all week here on the Bettor Sports Network. And we'll be back here on the show, 4:00 Eastern on Monday, me and Howard. So stay tuned for that. Good luck with all your bets tonight, and we'll see you then.
Bettor Sports Betting on the Bettor Sports Network.